Pastor David Tart here with another Unlocking the Word. I continue to thank you for taking the time to maybe have your eyes open a little bit to the power and meaning and the significance that God's Word can bring to our lives. Today, we're going to be looking at a question. I think it's a question we all like to ask. And I'm really looking forward to unpacking this question with you when we look at the word for today, Matthew 5, the Beatitudes. But the question is this: what makes us happy? What is happiness? What does it mean to live a happy life? That's even a better way of phrasing the question. What does it mean to live a happy life? And I guess we all have different ways of answering that question. Some people talk about, my stuff makes me happy. Some people talk about relationships, my grandchildren or my children make me happy, or my spouse makes me happy, or I love my job and my job makes me happy. We could have a long list of how we can live a happy life, a blessed life, like Jesus talks about today. And we're going to look at the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes sort of redefines what happiness is, what a happy life is, what a blessed life is. And we're going to dive deep into it. I'm looking forward to telling you all about it. So anyway, after this encouragement to subscribe and tell you a little bit more about what our channel is and what it is not, really, and we'll get into it. So see you soon. Hi, welcome to our Toward the Dawn channel, and especially to Unlocking the Word. I'm so glad that you're listening or viewing this podcast. And I want to invite you to like it, share it, subscribe to it. Not because we're looking for numbers, because that doesn't matter to us at Toward the Dawn, but we are looking for as a group of people who just absolutely love the Word and who love to dialogue about it. So be sure to comment your insights into the word for the day or to something I've said. Feel free to disagree or feel free to fill in the blanks of something you think I missed. And we will have a wonderful time working through these wonderful texts. And of course, we're going to keep our channel and our podcast safe. We're not going to allow for abusive language, hateful language. This is going to be a podcast that's all about respect and about coming together to embrace what God is speaking to us. So anyway, thank you for listening, and let's do the Unlocking the Word for today. Well, hey, here we go on this wonderful passage from Matthew 5, sometimes called the Sermon on the Plain, or Mountain, excuse me. There are, by the way, two different sermons. They resemble each other very closely, but yet they have some different nuances. One is in Matthew, what's called Sermon on the Plain, because Jesus speaks on a plain. But here in Matthew, Jesus speaks this sermon from a mountain. And that is significant, believe it or not, because Matthew wants to firmly root Jesus in the Old Testament story. And one of the images that Matthew wants to lift up is that Jesus is the new Moses. He replaces Moses. As you know, Moses was a big hero in the Old Testament. Moses is the one who received the Ten Commandments. He was the author of the law, if you will. So he had significant influence and power over what makes for a righteous a follower of God. I mean, if you wanted to know how do you follow God, how do you live a godly life, you would go to Moses, in particular to the Ten Commandments, right? And this whole idea of a godly life is what we mean by righteousness, right living, the right way to live. In the Old Testament, the author of all that, the beginner of all that, the parent of all that is Moses. And so here in Matthew 5, on the Sermon on the Mount, we have Jesus going up the mountain, and he sits down and he begins to speak, and he teaches them about the right way to live. Or to tie back into the question for today, what constitutes a happy life? How do we live in such a way that we are happy? Which takes us into the whole concept of blessedness. What does it mean to be blessed? Or another way of translating that word is happy. To live a blessed life is to live a happy life. To live a blessed life is to live a fulfilled life. The blessed life is a prosperous life. It's a word that captures all the favors of God. When God favors you, there's happiness, joy, peace, contentment. It's definitely the right way to live, blessedness. And this is where it gets very interesting in this text, because Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount redefines what blessedness is, what happiness is, what the right way to live is. It turns out not to be what we expect. You see, we're going to go a little deeper now into this, because that's what you want, right? You want to unlock this stuff. Well, you have to get underneath it in order to unlock it. The blessedness that Jesus describes in the Sermon on the Mount sort of has two parts. It has the part that kind of shocks us, and then has the part that redirects us. And I wish I could go through each one of these Beatitudes, these ways of happiness, but we'd be here a long time. I'd go over my 20 to 25 minute limit. I really do try to limit myself here. But what I want you to hear is this, is that blessedness, for example, we'll take the first one. We could do all of them. The first statement about blessedness, like I was saying, is shocking. It's not what we would think. For example, blessed are the poor in spirit. Luke, by the way, is just blessed are the poor, which I won't get into Luke, because Luke, as we know, is really lifting up the poor. But we're not going to go back to Luke. We're going to stay right here in Matthew. Blessed are the poor in spirit. So what is poor in spirit? Poor in spirit is someone who feels empty, someone who feels lost, someone who is depressed, someone who feels like a failure, someone who feels like they have nothing to live for. It's the opposite of blessedness, of happiness, of what every human being wants and dreams of. Blessed are the poor in spirit. And that shocks us, because that's not where we think happiness comes from. Fulfilledness doesn't come from being without. But then we have the redirection. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they shall have the reign of heaven. the reign of heaven. For the people living at that time, the reign of God was found in your stuff and being successful and feeling good and being happy. And, you could look at someone who, is happy all the time, who has a life all filled out, worked out, who has everything working for him, especially in terms of wealth. You think, well, that person really has it all together. They must be very rich. But here is where the happiness is truly found. Happiness, Jesus is saying, is not in stuff or having your life all figured out, but it's trusting totally in the reign of God. It's saying that life is not, the happiness and blessedness is not found in what we achieve or how we've got everything worked out, but in faith and trust in God's reign amidst the times when we don't have life figured out, when we feel like we're empty inside, when we feel impoverished and so forth. Because it's in the reign, trusting in the reign of God, that we find true happiness and joy and peace. And that is so wonderful. And the other thing I want to kind of throw in this now, just push it a little further, is that this happiness, this trusting in the reign of God, is not meant for individuals, but for our community. He teaches them the reign of God is found in the poor in spirit. Why? Because it's the community that holds up the person who's in poor in spirit. It's the community, it's the them that people find their joy. And this is so true, is it not? But the people who survive the traumas and survive the emptiness, who feel like they're lost and everything, the ones who really trust in God and have a community around them are the ones that find the happiness, the blessedness, the joy. It's all about trusting in the sovereignty of God, the rule of God in our lives. That's where blessedness is always found. And that is the true joy of life. And again, we could go on and on. I mean, this is really, I'll just do one more, otherwise, like I said, we'll be here for hours. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will inherit the earth. What does that mean? I mean, that's kind of shocks us. First of all, how can you look at someone who's grieving and say they're happy? That's ludicrous, isn't it? When you see someone who's mourning the loss of a loved one, to say somehow that's blessed? No. It's also blessed because of the hope that they have. When you're mourning the loss of a loved one, when you're really grieving, you find comfort in the hope that God is the God of life, the God of tomorrow, and the God of a new day. And again, going right back into the community, they will be comforted. In other words, it will be the community, it will be the family, it will be the friends who gather around that person, who have been living the life of God's love and justice and peace for people. That will be their comfort. Blessed are those who mourn, because they will be comforted. The community and God will comfort them. They have that comfort of God. Because we're all going to face loss. You can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. And it won't be your stuff that's going to help you get through it. It's not going to be your entertainment that's going to get you through it. It's going to be your faith in the reign of God, God's love for you, God's hope for you, God's hope for your loved one. That will get you through it. And the comfort of your family and friends who don't abandon you in your mourning. They will be comforted. And Jesus wants us to see that when we're grieving, the comfort of others is the blessedness, is the joy you find amidst all that loss. I mean, again, I could go through on and on and on about this, about how Jesus redefines happiness. Happiness is no longer being found in stuff. It's not going to be having all the answers. It's not going to be always thinking you've arrived, but it's always going to be in the God who riches us with his grace and the love of the community. It's there that we find our joy, our blessedness. Remember this, the richest person in the room, not the one with the most money. Some of the richest people in the world are some of the poorest I've ever seen. The richest person in the room is always the one who has the faith and the love of others, the love of God. That's the richest person. It's all there. And again, I can't go through all of them because I don't have time, but still, the main point I'm having here as we're dealing with this question, how do we live a happy life? How do we find happiness in life? It's always in our faith in the reign power of God and the love of others. And that love is not something we just receive, but it's also something that we give, because that's what we're called to be. In many ways, and we'll finish with this, Beatitudes is a call to action for the Christian community. You want to know what Christians are all about? You want to know what we're to do? Well, we give away the reign of God. We comfort. We search righteousness. We give mercy, receive mercy. All those things is the job description for a Christian community, a Christian family. This is what we do. That's how we find blessedness. And learning that it's truly God who blesses us in Jesus. So anyway, I want to kind of add a little bit more to the end here. This whole idea of righteousness and what does it mean to live the right life is going to get unpacked a lot of times in the Gospel of Matthew. We're going to be jumping around this all year. In many ways, righteousness in the Gospel of Matthew is like a diamond with many different facets. You just have to twist it a little bit. You'll see that diamond in a whole new way, in the same way it's going to be with Matthew and righteousness. Jesus, he constantly is twisting that diamond so we see righteousness in a whole new way, and that's what happens in the gospel, in this Beatitudes. Right way of living is twisted for us to see it in a whole new way through faith and love. That is where that righteousness, the right way to live, is truly enjoyed like a diamond. All right, that's it for today, and look forward to sharing another Unlocking the Word with you. God bless.